Hello and welcome back to another episode of More Than a Business Live. I am your host, Mitch Case. I am also the co-founder of More Than a Meal, where we help organizations strengthen their relationships with employees and clients by showing gratitude, appreciation, and empathy, one meal at a time. We started this show probably close about 8 months ago with the intent to highlight amazing individuals within amazing organizations that really truly are doing work that is more than just the business, more than the bottom line, more than just profit. And that's not to say that profit's not a bad word by any means. It is just a different way of running business. And I recognize an opportunity to highlight those individuals that work day in and day out to make sure that they create a space that people want to show up to work. Their blood pressure isn't rising as they walk through the door on Monday morning, but also find maybe some purpose, whether that's inside the business or that business allows them to find purpose outside of the business. So today's guest, I'm really excited to get him on the show here. But before we do that, we are coming to you guys every single Thursday. And I'll finish this at the end of the show to change that up a little bit here. But every single Thursday at 3 p.m. Central Time, interviewing these amazing leaders within these amazing organizations. And part of the possibility for allowing us to do this is our sponsor, True Captive. If you haven't heard of True Captive, they believe in healthcare that is personal and insurance that isn't complicated. I just got off the phone with a broker, and I basically had to have them read it word for word so I could understand it. So I completely understand the complications that come with that. But if you do want to learn more about this unique captive healthcare program, just head on over to truecaptive.com and they'll help you out over there. So with that, I want to go ahead and introduce our guest. He is the CEO of Classical Conversations, and we'll dive more into that throughout the show. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome Robert Bortins to the show. Welcome, Robert.
Mitch, glad to be here with you today.
I am excited. I know this is like your fifth or sixth podcast of the day, so I'm going to make it short and sweet as I got to go pick up a kiddo after this as well. But I appreciate you coming on the show too to talk more about what makes Classical Conversations just a little bit different than maybe your traditional business model. But before we go ahead and do that, I do want to jump into our positive impact story. So maybe share a little bit about something that you have done or Classical Conversations has done to have a positive impact on a team member, a community member, or maybe even a client. So if you could share a little bit of a positive impact story, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm going to share three real quick ones. One is we just found out one of our students got a 1590 on the SAT score, so that's super exciting. And of course, we get students all the time that have great scores and get into great colleges or go on to do wonderful things. And then a lot of people think that classical education is just for the elite, and it's really not. It works for all people in all circumstances. And we've had so many people with like different learning disabilities who were told that they would never be able to do X, and then they're achieving that and more because they
Yes.
have embraced that classical model. And a story I want to share there is just the power of the community that we build at Classical Conversations. Mom wrote in telling us about her daughter who has some issues and is basically confined to a wheelchair. And she's just kind of looked out and saw all the kids playing baseball on the baseball field during lunch. And she could see that she was kind of sad. But a few minutes later, some young men, probably 12, 13 years old, came and grabbed her and helped her to the baseball field and helped her hit a ball and then raced her around the tracks and
Oh my.
celebrated her home run with her. So you just think about most 12, 13-year-old boys don't really care to help out anyone else, but that's just the type of people that are attracted to Classical Conversations. And then like work related, we have a care team that we formed. I give them a budget. I don't tell them what to do or what not to do. But I just had a meeting with them this afternoon, and they just informed me this quarter one of our team members, one of our hourly workers, had their car break down, had a $2,000 car bill that they couldn't afford and weren't going to be able to get to work, and they paid it for them. It's if you're an employer and you're complaining about your people not being able to get to work when they have car problems, well, just start a care team and help them out because
Wow.
and it's not someone that hired yesterday, but it's someone that's been with us for a while. But we know that they're not necessarily in a position to pay those unexpected bills, most likely with just with the type of work that they do.
Sure, sure. And there's equity in that relationship already where it's just a no-brainer almost. But oh my gosh. Okay. There are so many things in that. There are some near and dear friends of ours, both near and far, that have children that need help from that perspective, and they've continuously talked about as their children get older and older, like that's one of their biggest fears is like their child being left out or
Mhm.
having bad interactions with a 13-year-old kid or something like that. And to hear that that is something that there is the next generation coming up, there are individuals within that are going out of their way to recognize somebody that's not being included at the time and give them the same opportunities to be celebrated and put smiles on their faces where they are given a much harder hand than I will ever
Mhm.
probably experience, and maybe so with a lot of the individuals that interact. So that's amazing in and of itself, and I think I want to talk a lot about some of those initiatives within the work that you guys are doing. But glad to hear that your team member is taken care of as well, because so often we think, oh, that person just didn't show up again, or that person didn't show up for whatever reason. And we don't actually recognize the challenges that are being placed in front of them. Had you not known that there is a car breaking down, a significant bill, that's not easy to come up with in the back pocket when statistics show that, I think it's close to like 80% or something like that don't have enough to even handle a $400 emergency fund
Yeah.
for something. So it's pretty wild, but that's such an amazing way to love on your team members and definitely a moment of chaos.
Yeah.
Man, well, you've kind of told us a little bit about classical conversations, but let's dive into that a little bit. Tell us a little more about what your work is specifically within the organization, and kind of high level what that is, and then we'll dive into a little bit more on what makes it truly more than a business.
Yeah, so I mean, Classical Conversations is the world's largest classical Christian homeschooling community. We're in 60 countries, and we have a full K through 12 curriculum. We even have college courses, and we're all about empowering parents to give their kids a wonderful education. And really, our differentiator in the market is community, where we meet together face to face in our flesh to homeschool, and they split up into classes about size of 8 to 1 with a trained parent tutor. And so it started in my family's basement in
Wow.
1997 when I was in high school with 11 students. 4 or 5 years later, there's about 100 students with a waiting list of 300. And that's when my mom and my dad decided to try to figure out how to make it a real business, a real
Sure.
organization. I was in college. They gave me a phone call and said, Robert, we're not paying for school anymore. You got to figure it out yourself. We're going to try to
Oh
start this
no.
business. And so my dad had quit his job, and he was an aerospace engineer. So he was
Oh no
doing
way.
pretty well. So it was awesome. I ended up going and co-oping. So I'd work a semester, go to school semester. And yeah, after I graduated, worked for about 6 years as an engineer before coming back to, work in the family business. And I just really enjoyed the freedom that homeschooling gave me, and figured if my family could do it, yours could too. And I just think there's a lot of benefits that people don't really understand that are out there.
Yeah, and I'll raise my hand in the sense too of like homeschooling is very foreign to me. It was never something I was exposed to. I knew kids that were homeschooled, but I couldn't tell you what it is that they did on a day in and day out basis. And I think obviously with your guys' story and the demand that is in there, like there are definitely alternative routes to education that can be very beneficial for anybody from that side of things. I love your dad's story. Like, I didn't technically get my aerospace, but I was a mechanical engineer with an emphasis in aerospace,
Okay.
and threw that all out to go start a meal business a while back. So I get a lot of questions on like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Well, there's a lot of benefits outside of all of that. We're going to start diving more into the business itself, what truly makes it more than business. But I forgot to mention for anybody that's tuning in live, go ahead and shoot into the comments wherever you guys are at. Let us know where you're tuning in from, what platform you're tuning in for. And if there's any questions that you have throughout this show that myself or Robert can help answer, go ahead and shoot those in the comments, and we'll try to get those answered and give you some shout outs along the way as well. So with that, Robert, I think you've already maybe stolen a lot of thunder already for this next question, just with what you kind of opened up with on that impact story. But there's so much to just business in general. We understand businesses do need to make a profit to be able to survive and pay their employees and families as well. But there are so many other things about business that are not wrapped up in the profit side. And we always like to kind of dive into like, how does that work? What is it that truly makes your organization more than a business? Because at the end of the day, you can throw money at things and do that, but if you're not feeling driven or purposed or motivated in the work that you're doing, it's just not going to get done. And those are the things that we always like to talk about. So, what are some things that other business owners or HR executives are kind of thinking
Mhm.
about? How can we truly make this more than just the business side of things, and how can we care for our team members? So, maybe share a little bit about what makes classical conversations more than a business.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we do is really lead with our mission, which is to know God and to make Him known. We are, unapologetically Christian, but you don't have to be Christian to have a strong mission statement that you are unapologetic about. So people know that it's not about, internal wealth. It's about, it's eternal wealth. And
Mm,
what we're trying to do is, shape the hearts and minds of the next generation so that we can have stronger families, which will build stronger communities, which will build stronger states, which will build a stronger country, and just make all of us be more flourishing. And those things don't happen unintentionally. So you have to make it part of your matrix, part of your scorecards, part of
mm,
those things that you're reviewing on a quarterly and annual basis. Like you can't, like for us, we're planning, in September and even as early as July for the next year. And you can't just plan your P&L and your, what are we going to add, what are we going to subtract, those type of things. But you also need to equally plan for how are you going to engage with your team members, how are you going to engage with your community members, how are you going to honor those that are going above and beyond. And so if you're not taking the time to plan and the time to what get measured gets done. And so if you're not
man.
measuring some of these things internally, then it's very unlikely that it's just going to magically by chance happen. So I think that's one of the key things that we've tried to build upon over the last 10 years. And it doesn't happen overnight, but start where you are and figure out the direction you need to go and take one step at a time.
Spoken like a true engineer as measuring things and making sure. So let me ask this. So it sounds like even as you guys are planning for, hey, what does it look like from a revenue perspective? But what does it look like from an employee engagement side? Now, I don't know that that's necessarily just like what are we putting towards from a dollar perspective, or are we talking? Are you even having conversations on like what strategies do we have in place to make sure that we're engaging with them? What are things that we can do differently to engage with them, and then are you actually like measuring that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We are. I mean, we're saying, okay, what did we do last year that worked? How can we make it better? What was the feedback on those events? How many people attended, doing, kind of net promoter score type stuff on some of those events.
Yeah.
What, even surveying the employees, like what type of, employee appreciation events would you like? What would you like to do? One of the things, we're a big Second Amendment company, so
Fair.
uh, our one of our departments wanted to all get their all gun safety training done, and
Yeah.
so we paid for all of them one day on a Saturday to go get gun safety done. So no
Hey,
bad
man.
guys are ever going to come into our office and survive. So we don't have to worry about that.
Well, I'll
So
even point out nobody's going to get hurt within your office because you know how to also store a weapon safely.
yeah, so we'll just call the ambulance.
That's helpful too.
But no, so I mean that's something that they wanted to do. So I mean, if that's not something that your groups want to do, don't do it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just
Of
just
course.
trying to listen to them, and we try to really be um engaging and letting them know why those decisions are that we do make, because you're always weighing things, and of course employees just see things from one point of view. So we're trying to always explain, okay, we're changing insurance this year or whatever. This is why. And I was like, look, these were the three decisions that we had to make. This
Yeah.
is we didn't like this decision because of X, and we didn't like this decision because of Y, and we picked this decision. And maybe it's not as good on Z as we'd all like it to be, but at
Sure.
least you understand that this is why we picked it. And so, one of those things too is, as we're projecting growth, we're also saying, okay, if we grow revenue, how can we use that to benefit employees? And so one of the things we instituted a few years ago is called pay for performance. And once the company hits uh, specific benchmarks for profitability, most of that additional profit goes into basically a bonus pool
Bonus pool.
on a quarterly basis. So the better the company does, the better the employees do. So it helps align them and get them on board with what's going on. And we believe that a worker is worth their wages, and if we're able to exceed some of our goals or meet our goals, that they should benefit
Be
from that.
compensated
And
accordingly.
yeah, and there, without money, there's no mission, and the only reason to make money is to have a strong mission that you're going at, and it's going to
Mhm.
be very difficult for a business, um, to really have an engaged culture and engaged group if you haven't figured out what that real mission is, and if it's just making money for the owner. I mean, there's going to be ways to engage people, probably around salaries and increase in costs. And for us, we're not going to be at the high end of pay. We're going to be kind of in the middle.
Yeah,
But we're going to really focus on work-life balance. If you need to take your kid to the dentist at 3 p.m., I mean, we're not going to tell you to go take off. We're going to say, get your work done, and, make sure you get your work done this week, and,
sure.
go get it done and help your family, versus a very, very strict placement. All right, well, you got to take 4 hours of vacation because we
PTO
don't
on that one.
allow. Yep. And obviously you got to make sure nobody's abusing it, but
Sure.
we want to make sure that our people are taken care of, because if they're stressed out at home, then they're not going to produce for you.
I was gonna
So
say, where that stress is gonna go when they leave home, and
yeah,
then when they
so
leave work, it's gonna go back home again.
yeah, so we had this lady was an upper level person in our company and been with us for a really long time, and she had a sick mom, and I just said, go home for a month. Like, we'll cover it for you. It's like, don't worry about taking vacation days or how many vacation days you have. We're not gonna not let you go see your kids at Christmas or anything because you ran out of days. Just go home for a month, be with her, get everything taken care of, and then come back. So
Yeah.
you can't obviously do that for every case and every individual, but she had earned our
Sure.
trust, and had been with us. So just things like that, and other people see that you're taking care of other people when there's a situation. It just makes them want to work harder, not for the sake of working harder, but because they see that we value each individual.
So much of what I don't mean to like shorten it into one word by any means, but like the word transparency just keeps coming up, both as you were speaking, as I was kind of thinking through this, and a lot of other conversations I've had, and how much that transparency can actually build trust. Because you hit on a topic of, guess what? Insurance premiums are increasing again. Shocking. Um, but if you don't give them reasons why, or why you've made these decisions with the intent to like truly show what they have been going, what you decisions you've been having to make, which haven't been easy decisions, they might sit there and think, oh, they just did this to benefit themselves, versus truly being transparent in that. You also brought up like the bonus pool. I love this book. I'm going to see if I can find it. The Great Game of Business. It talks about, rewarding good work through being transparent, and here are the goals that we are trying to meet. Here are the actual measurable metrics inside of that, so that I can show you how you can accomplish this, and you will be compensated based on performing better than we are asking you to perform. So I just loved how much that word transparency kind of continue to show up as you build trust and equity in each of those relationships, to given to the point where a team member can come to you, or you can go to that team member and say, you go, just go. We know you're going to be here when you come back. Take a month off. We don't need to worry about anything. We trust you. We've had
Mhm.
good conversations, and it allows you to retain somebody that's probably very important to your team, and allowing them to be a human on the things that were, hard in their lives outside of work. So I love hearing stories like this with business owners that, you know, are more invested in the individual than just their performance itself. So thanks for sharing that. And I know many people have probably gotten some good ideas that they can potentially add to their list of things as well. Let's kind of keep this going. We're going to run out of time if
Yeah.
I don't keep it moving forward here. I could talk for days on those types of things and dig even deeper with the work that you guys are doing. But um, I also know that these things don't happen without good leadership. And that, along with probably many people on your leadership team, do make it possible. But I always like to understand, like, what keeps you motivated. You're an engineer and now you're into education. You had a comfortable paycheck, probably as an engineer and benefits, and then you're going to risk it all and go and lead an organization. Like, those are things that they take a lot of self thought, probably even some self doubt that pops in. We know that I don't always have 100% of myself to give every single day, but there's a lot of people that are counting on me to show up and give the 100% of me that I do have to give that day. So, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you showing up to?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that keeps me motivated, just like we want our team members to be motivated on, is that mission to know God and to make Him known. And just, obviously, it's not controversial to say anymore that our education system in the U.S. has, effectively failed our families, failed our students. And so, we need to get the word out. We need to make sure our curriculum is strong, that our communities are strong, so that we can help rebuild the United States. And hopefully, we're in 60 countries now. So make sure that those countries have, well educated people to lead into the future. Like, so we are always thinking about, not just what we're doing today or tomorrow, but, what does this mean 10 years from now, 20 years from now? What does that mean for the next generation or two generations later? And trying to just not just follow whatever fancy trends are cool at the moment, but what are those transcendent ideas that'll last, generations? And so I think, just from a daily standpoint, you're right. I mean, you kind of have those days you're, just like everyone else, I really don't want to go to work, or there's really some, thing I got to do today that I don't want to do. But I think part of that is being I'm part of a group called the C12 group. It's a Christian CEO roundtable, meets once a month, and it's a great way, as a business owner. It is lonely at the top, right? You get a bad day at work, you can't really complain to one of your employees, or they're definitely not going to care. And your wife probably doesn't want to hear about it again, or your husband. So it's nice to have a group of like-minded business owners that you can talk to and respond to if they have issues, and just kind of be a community to help each other get stronger. Because I haven't cornered all the good ideas yet, and I know that there's other people that have done it. So I just putting those goals out there. We set a 10-year goal, which is our 2030 goal, so a little bit closer than 10 years now. And we have a 3-year goal, 1-year goal, and then quarterly goals that we think we need to make to hit those 1-year goals. And so there's always those things in front of you. Every 90 days you're checking in with your team, and we're doing an all hands meeting with all 170 employees. And so I'm going to have to report how we did as a group, every 90 days. And so that keeps you motivated too, just having that level of accountability. And like you said, I think transparency is huge. When there is a lack of understanding, people always go to the worst case scenario in their mind. It's just human nature. And so the only way to really combat that is to be transparent. But you have to, hire good people that you can trust. And part of that is, having good processes and finding good people. Because there's people you shouldn't be transparent with, but you always start with humility and grace, and giving them that first opportunity. You're muted, Mitch. But one of the other things that has really helped us out is this book, or this thing called EOS. And you can read the book Traction. But EOS this stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and a lot of these things can be institutionalized, that I've been talking about, if you start using EOS. And I always tell them that they should pay me for all the times that I refer people to. No, still not hearing you, buddy. But them, and if you are a leader, like even if your company is not on EOS, you can go read it and read the book Traction and start implementing some of those good processes in place for your team members, because all of us are leaders, whether it's in our own home or in our community, or whatever. For a supervisor, right, we're leading a handful of people in daily tasks, or middle management. Having those tools at your disposal and loving on your people, even if the top maybe doesn't have that worldview that you have, doesn't mean you can't implement it. And I guarantee you're going to show results, and you're going to outperform those around you. And maybe that will, force those people who are, kind of skeptical to start adopting some of these worldviews on how work should be done. And, for me as a Christian, God gave work to us before sin. He asked Adam to name the animals and provide for him and his wife. That all happened before sin. So work isn't something that's bad. It's something that brings us closer to our Creator and who we are meant to be. Work just sucks because of sin, and sin made it a lot harder than it's supposed to be. So, I think that's the other thing that motivates me is, if my God is working, then why shouldn't I be working too? You're still not hearing you, Mitch. He's having computer issues, technical issues today, but I'm sure he'll get it done. If you're following me on, if you're on X and watching, love to connect with you on LinkedIn. And if you're on LinkedIn watching, love to connect with you on X, the Robert B Show. I know Classical Conversations, of course, is in every single state. We're in 60 countries. We're working hard to translate our materials into foreign languages. It's not inexpensive. We wouldn't be able to do it if we didn't have our American help us be able to have money to be able to do those things. But we think it's important, even if we're losing money, to be internationally, because those people need to have a strong education system there, and we're happy to kind of use that as a platform. One of the other things that we do as an organization is try to give away 10% of our profit every single year to nonprofits, or just other organizations that are doing good things. And so we've kind of institutionalized that, and our team members help us identify some of those nonprofits to give money to. So we want to be a giving company. We don't want to, really hold on to anything that we don't have to hold on to. We want to, be wise with our, finances. We should be good stewards. We try to keep, 3 to 6 months of funds in the bank. So if things go south, we don't have to lay people off. We can pivot or figure out, how to make things go well. Debt isn't, debt. Of course, everyone knows debt's a bad thing right now with interest rates so high. But even when interest rates were low, we were working to, make sure that we weren't going needlessly into debt, because you never know what's going to happen when the next black swan event's going to occur, or you're going to get a downturn in the economy or anything like that. So and all that just creates a more stable uh, job for those who are working in your organization, and so they don't have to be worried about where they're going to get their next paycheck from, if they know the company's in strong financial spot. So if you have a good mission and you are doing a good job stewarding your resources, you're able to do a whole lot more for your employees and your communities, and just the people that you serve, or even your vendors. So still not hearing you, Mitch. Well, we're going to wrap it up. So, Mitch, thank you so much for having me on today. Really appreciate it. Sorry that you had technical issues, but I love technology, right? It lets us meet. It lets us do these awesome things, talk to, hundreds or thousands of people in an afternoon, but it always seems to still break down. So it's a good thing. So go check out Mitch's podcast every Thursday at 3 p.m. You might be changing some things up, but we're not sure what those are because he didn't tell us at the beginning of the show. But yeah, More Than a Business. Connect with Mitch Case. Send one of your employees or a customer a meal through his organization. And thank you so much, Mitch. And I guess we'll end the show. Follow.